Okay. A very good morning from here at KUTV. I am Japhet Ego. I teach English and literature at Nandarasi High School. And today I'm going to walk you through the poetry. And it is vital for us to know that poetry is divided into 3 parts. First and foremost, we will look at some of the terms used. Under the terms used, we will look at things like, when we look at the terms used, things like the persona. It is important to know that when you say, when you're asked who is the persona in the poem, you should also be able to break down the supporting statement from the poem. We will also look at the themes. Sometimes it's also referred to us as the message. We will also again look at the you in the poem. The you. We'll describe who is the you. And lastly, we will move on to the next category, which is again another bit. It is under figures of speech. Figures of speech is divided into several parts. First part, we have the sound patterns. We know the sound patterns, things like alliteration, assonance, consonants. Again, we will also look at the sound devices. They are normally 2. One is onomatopoeia, and the other one is called the idiophone. You should be able to, whenever you're asked about the onomatopoeia and the idiophone, you should also give us a supporting statement. Lastly, we will look at the stylistic devices. This is a broad category, things like similes, among others. Our keen interest today, we will look at the persona, and we know very well who the persona is. A persona is when a poet sits down and composes a poem, there's a special, very special message he always tries to send to the audience. And for this case, the persona himself is the character that the poet uses whenever he wants to send the message. That one special character being used to deliver a certain message. So under the persona also, for example, if we want to highlight, if the poet wants to highlight the plight of a beggar, the poet will sit down and from the point of view, have one of the beggars. Maybe if it is a beggar who struggles to survive, he will come up with common things that are common in the city. For example, hawkers. Maybe the hawker is being chased by the county askaris, among others. And then from that point, you can be able now to understand the plight maybe of a beggar. So with me here, I have a poem. I have the poem. The title of the poem is No, Not Yet, Lord, for Dodo ya Dodoma, 1972. We can go together with you. If you must take my child, Lord, take him before I get used to that incessant crying, which with midnight insistence must wake me, or teeth have grown on his boneless gums. Or mama, he has learned to mumble. But Lord, if into hope and promise you let him toddle, take him when bent and toothless. The end of the day has come, and into the night let him be. Look for me. In this poem, for example, if we are likely to be asked that who is the persona in the above poem? Who is the persona in the above poem? For us to tell the persona, we should look at first through the words that supports the persona here. So the persona in that poem is a mother. And when we asked why is the persona a mother, we are able to tell because she pleads with God to take her baby later, if not now, because if God cannot take the kid now, let the kid not get used to me. So it is written from a mother point of view. Another reason also, we also learned that the boy has learned to call the mother mama. So mama is a guiding term for us to tell the persona. Secondly, we are going to the second common term. It is called the you. The you. So the you, when a poem tries to pass across a message to the audience, he also assumes that there is a second part involved in the presentation. Not part of the audience, but there is a second part during the presentation. This second person, we call them the you. Also, the third part, we are going to look at the message. This is the third part, the message or a theme. The message or a theme. The message or a theme is a special message a poet shares with us philosophically. When we want to establish a theme of a given poem, it is always very important to ask ourselves, what is the message of the poem, of the poet in this poem? So whenever we ask ourselves what is the message, we also try to make the theme, the points that support the theme flow naturally, ideologically. Also understand that some of the poem, most of the poem mostly, some of them, they don't have the theme. For example, we know poem is a song, and a song does not necessarily have a theme, because some songs, they just entertain us. The same applies to some of the poems. They don't carry the theme, although they carry the humor and entertainment aspects of it. Our other part, we will look at the subject. The subject. This is our third part, the subject. This is going back to the above poem. We are likely to ask ourselves, what is the subject matter of the poem? We try to when the poem in the subject matter of the poem, we try to break down the poem into a synopsis, or rather, we can say we are breaking down the poem into a. We are breaking down the poem into a summary of the poem itself. For example, you don't necessarily have to read the entire stanzas. Rather, it is just broken down into 3 or 4 lines in summary. That is the subject matter. And we will also have another poem here that can guide us through. The poem is called the Municipal Duty. I will read through the poem. Municipal Duty. It goes like this. She stood by the wares, her child tied to the back, nibbling a dry slice while she haggled with customers. As people milled by, to this and from that care, with the scary eyes, with no warnings, she had gathered her. The sack across her chest darted off, like an antelope who has seen a lion. He raced after her, wielding the municipal club, knocking off pedestrians in the municipal rush. The child shrieked like a police siren, but he wasn't deterred. She looked behind, gasping for scarce air. He only a step away. Not caring for the lights, she dashed into the street as he raced the rungu. The driver stepped on the brakes. The girl skidded with momentum. Her mouth opened, dazed, but no sound came except the agonized crash of steel, flesh, and macadam mashed, leaving the uniform phantomed, transfixed, executing municipal duty. For such an interesting poem by Okumbe Miruka, when you are asked what's the subject matter in the poem above, the subject matter is just the summary of the poem. And from the poem that I've just read, which will be there in a few, we learned that the subject matter of this poem, the poem is about a street hawker who sells wares, who sells the street's goods. And while she was doing on her business, she was busy haggling with the customers. In that process, she spotted a municipal askari. And we know what happens when these small-scale businesses meet with the municipal askari. They try to run with their goods for safety. So as she was running away from the municipal askari, we realized that she haggled her goods across the chest and on her back with the baby who was nibbling a dry slice of bread. As the mother tried to run away with the wares and the child on the baby, we are also told that the child shrieked, producing a sound like a siren. And we also learned that the kid still had was still nibbling the dry slice of bread. And in that scenario, it is a category we are depicting what happens in the streets. The uniform phantom was after the lady, wiggling her rungu after the lady. The lady ran and without a warning, she did not even look at the street lights. She just dashed into the highway. And then what happened? Of steel mashed macadam and steel. And from there, we are told that the mother was running away from the municipal askari, and then she encountered, she was run over by the car that was on the highway. So that is the subject matter of the poem. And then in the same poem again, we are going to ask ourselves, what is the theme of the poem? What is the theme of the poem? We've already learned that the theme is the message that a poet wants to put across. And for this case, our theme in that poem, after we know the message, after we know the subject matter, we look at now the theme of the message. The theme of the message might be one, struggle for survival. According to the little breakdown, the summary I've given you about the poem. Secondly, also we notice that this theme of death. This theme of death here, whereby the phantom was chasing the mother, and the mother did not look at the traffic lights. She just dashed into the highway. And in that case, we learned that she was run over by the car, and that is the theme. So that marks the end of our first part on the terms, common terms used in poetry. We are told that we only have the 4 parts: the persona, the theme, the you, and the subject matter, which is the last bit. Again, we are now going to the other part. This part is now we are going to the figures of speech at the second part. Figures of speech. So figures of speech again is broken into 3 other parts. The first part under figures of speech is sound patterns. Sound patterns. Under sound patterns, we have things like alliteration, assonance. Okay, we have the alliteration, assonance, consonants, and rhyme. Our area of key interest, we will start with the rhyme. And for us to come up with the rhyme comes up from rhyme is as a result of the rhyming words that come at the end of this sentence in a stanza. For example, if we have a poem and it goes with the word like maybe shag, and the other word maybe becomes bag, there is a rhyming word that comes towards the end of that word in every line, and that is what now we call the rhyming word. So it creates a rhyme, and then the rhyme is again is a repetition of the same sound at the end of lines in a stanza. And these words, sometimes it's also called similar sounding ending words, similar sounding words endings. And I will use also another example of a poem. The poem is called The Common Cormorant. The Common Cormorant. I will take you through this poem again. The Common Cormorant. The common cormorant shag lays eggs inside a paper bag. The reason, you will see no doubt, is to keep the lighting out. But what these unobservant birds has never noticed is that herds of wandering howers may come with buns and steal the bags to hold the crumbs. By Ammon. The rhyme of the above poem, for us to come up with the rhyme again, like I've told you before, the rhyme is as a result of the rhyming words. But before we come up with all those, we know that the rhyming words develop something we call a rhyme scheme. Under the rhyme scheme, we have two categories of the rhyme scheme. We have the regular rhyme scheme and the irregular rhyme scheme. When we look at the irregular rhyme scheme, normally the rhyme scheme is there, but it is hard for us to predict the next, if the poem ends maybe with a certain letter, it is hard for us to come with letters that create something like a pattern. It creates it is good for me to use the poem above for us to understand. I will start with the rhyming words here. In the rhyming words were shag and bag. Secondly, we have doubt and out. Again, we have birds and herds. So these are the rhyming words in the poem. So these rhyming words, they also create a rhyme scheme, in that if in the poem they were marking the end shag, and then we have bag, and then we have doubt and out, lastly birds and herds. So for us to develop the rhyme scheme, we normally use the first letter of the alphabetic order. So here we will use A because of the word shag. Secondly, we'll have bag, they rhyme, so it is A. And then we have doubt, which becomes B. And then we have out, which is again B. And then we have birds, which is C, and herds, which is C. So what comes of these letters that we have here, we will have something like A, B, C. So here we will describe our rhyme scheme as a regular rhyme scheme. A regular rhyme scheme. Why? Because it is easy for us to predict the next rhyme scheme, which automatically maybe will be D, E, among others. So that is how we come up with the regular rhyme scheme. On the occasion where we come up with the irregular rhyme scheme, it will be hard for us to predict the next pattern. So this one is not predictable, while the rhyme scheme is the regular rhyme scheme is predictable. This is the area we deal with the rhyme. And then we will move on to another sound pattern, which is alliteration. What is an alliteration? What is an alliteration? Alliteration refers to the repetition of the consonantal sounds at the beginning of words in a line. at the beginning of a word in a line. For example, for alliteration to be there, it is the repetition of consonantal sounds. Repetition of consonantal sounds at the beginning of words in a line. I have an example of a sentence here that depicts alliteration better. We have the sentence, Kelly cooked kale for King Kong. Kelly cooked kale for King Kong. Under this line, we realize that there is a common pronunciation of certain words in this poem, regardless of how we write them. For the first word, we have Kelly. Here we have the word K, the K sound. And then cooked, we have kale and King Kong. So alliteration here, it is normally it normally comes either when the words have a closer proximity to each other, like Kelly cooked, or when there is a word but with close range, but just a one word before, strictly one word before. Like for our case here, we have for. So Kelly cooked kale for King Kong. So this one here, we have the sound is the K sound, which is our alliteration for this case. Okay, fine. Secondly, we also have alliteration is broken down again into two parts. We have the cacophony part of the alliteration. We have the cacophony alliteration, and then again we have the euphony. The euphony alliteration. Why do we have the second part in the alliteration under cacophony and euphony? We understand that cacophony is that harsh sound, the harsh sound that comes out of the is under the alliteration, but there is that harsh sound. We call it the cacophony. I'll still give you an example for you to depict more. And then under euphony, we also, these are pleasant sounds. These are pleasant sounds that depict the alliteration. For example, if we say whispering winds, or rather when we have the gentle glimmering glow, those are what we have. So under cacophony, an example, we have the clangorous clashes. Clangorous clashes. Look at this word, clangorous clashes. This happens maybe, you can imagine that you are holding two machetes and you knock one against the other. There is that sound that comes that is not pleasing to hear. Or rather, when you hold two horses and you knock each against the other, there's that clangorous clashes. So this word clangorous clashes, we call it in alliteration cacophony. And then under euphony again, it is those smooth words that create the serenity in your mind. For example, if we say the whispering winds, or rather if we say gentle glimmering glow. Yeah, thank you. That marks the part of the alliteration. Next, we are going to look at the assonance. Assonance. This is our second part, assonance. Very good. Assonance. And under assonance, we can say that assonance is the repetition of similar sounding vowels in a line. Assonance is the repetition of similar sounding vowels in a line. For example, with me, I have an example of a sentence here. It is going by, take the fake paint away. Take the fake paint away. So as you have said that okay, under take we have take the fake paint away. So under this sentence, under take, we have a silent A sound there. There, we don't have a common sound that keep on appears. While under the word fake, we also have we have a sound here, A, fake. Pain, we have it here, pain. We have the A sound. And away, we have another A sound there. So for us to come up with an assonance in this sentence here, it is that it is the repetition of this sound in the word. Okay. Next, we are going to look at consonants. Our next part will be consonants. What is a consonant? Okay, according to what we have on the notes there, consonant occurs when different words within a given line have similar final sounds. So in a line, for example, we can have an example of a sentence here. Said Kafa to Hafa, I am rough and I am tough. Said Kafa to Hafa, I am rough and I am tough. So in these words, towards the end, we notice that there is a common repetition here. Under Hafa, we have the, and not really here, under rough, sorry, we have the F sound, while under tough, we have the F sound repeated here. So that occurrence of similar final sounds in a word in a line is what we call the consonants. Lastly, we are going also to look at the functions of these words here. What is their functions? The words here, they normally they normally carry out three main functions. The functions of sound patterns, they normally carry out the three main functions. Function number one, we know very well that they create a rhythm. They create a rhythm. For example, if you look at a rhyme creates a rhythm, those rhyming words. Or rather, we also say they create musicality. So this is the first function. It is just run across all the sound patterns, all the four sound patterns. Again here, another function of this is that if it creates a rhythm, if it creates the musicality, it means that the poem becomes memorable. So for that idea, they create memorability. So when you're asked what is the function of either alliteration, assonance, consonants, we can say that they create memorability. Lastly, another function, when something becomes memorable, it means that it interests us. So another function is that they make the poem interesting. So they create the interesting aspect in the poem. So they create interest. So these are the four main function, or the three main functions of the sound patterns. Also, it is good to know the areas that might be tested afterwards. I've already just broken down the two main parts, which is the common terms used in poetry, while the other one also are the sound patterns. We've looked at the type of sound patterns. We've also looked at the functions of the sound patterns. While in the common terms, we've also known when to support this idea. For example, if a theme is about love, we know where we pick the lines that support those areas. So another part that maybe it's good just for you to know is that after the figures of speech, we also have the stylistic devices, and then lastly, we also have, under stylistic devices, we're done. We will also look at things like maybe mood, tone, and attitude. So this is what I have for you. Thank you for your time. It's been enjoyable, and we look forward to meeting again. Have a wonderful morning.